Hello there, Commonwealth from here together with Joey Ferris, and we are less than a month now from the Legend of Zelda 40th anniversary. But more interestingly as well is that this milestone also marks that we are 15 years away from Ocarina of Time 3D in the launch year of the 3DS in 2011. And with it, we have had a number of rumors or statements coming especially from Nash Weedle in 2025, which said that a remake is apparently in development and it's being handled by Nintendo. It is just that it might take some time, so obviously what wouldn't come out in 2025. Joey, do you think that this is something that is going to happen now on the Nintendo Switch 2? And if it's going to happen, wouldn't it be perfect now for the 40th anniversary of the franchise?
Yeah, so I think when there's smoke, there's fire. So that essentially means that I think this is going to happen based on the amount of rumors that have come out about it. Whether it's coming out this year or not, I'm a little shaky on. Like, if we're thinking this is a Final Fantasy VII Remake situation, if we're thinking like they're going to be significantly overhauling the crap out of this game, then I think we're going to have to wait a little longer for it, like closer to Ocarina of Time's 30th anniversary. But if we're thinking this is more like a Mario RPG situation where it's more of like a visual remake and the gameplay stays the same, I could see this coming out this year. I know anniversaries are a thing, but Nintendo, they don't really line up new games well with releases. Like Breath of the Wild could have been a 30th anniversary Zelda game, but they needed more time to launch that with the Nintendo Switch, so it got pushed to 2017.
Yeah, I would say so as well. Like, when it comes to Ocarina of Time and re-releases, because there have been a couple of those already, it's a game of brilliance, but also a lot of cut content. It could have been definitely worse, because we could have ended up with a hub world like in the case of Super Mario 64, and it could have been greater, because we could have had a jump button back in 1998, we could have had horseback combat with sword and shield, we could have had the Light Temple. So because of that, I feel like a more significant remake than just doing a Miitopia of Ocarina of Time 3D is the way to go here. Personally, I feel like it could be this year for Zelda's 40th anniversary, and the reason for that is Ocarina has never had re-releases really tied to its own anniversaries. The Master Quest re-release on the GameCube had nothing to do with the 5th anniversary of Ocarina of Time, and the same went with Ocarina of Time 3D, which came out on the 25th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. We all know that Ocarina of Time is a game that hasn't aged the best when it comes technically. Structure-wise, pacing-wise, it's still brilliant, but it struggles in both the graphics department, especially when it comes to the version that we have on the Nintendo Switch 2 currently, namely N64 Switch Online, and also being the only Zelda overall that has no dual analog camera controls. And that is the one thing that I feel like could be why they would want to bring back Ocarina to the spotlight. Then you have another thing. What is really the big seller right now when it comes to The Legend of Zelda? It's the open air formula. It is the one that allows you to run, jump, climb, and in the case of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, glide. Ocarina of Time is really the only 3D Zelda game, at least, where you could apply a lot of those elements to the world and make it more seamless by taking advantage of the new hardware.
It would certainly be a challenge to try to merge those two gameplay styles. Pretty much every traditional Zelda game before Breath of the Wild relied on item progression, and Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom completely eliminate that. You get everything in the tutorial islands, and then once you get the gliders, like you're set to go explore the entire world. To merge those two gameplay styles would certainly be a challenge. I think back though to A Link Between Worlds, which came out before the open air era, but I also thought that was going to be what Zelda Wii U was going to be like, basically going to an item shop to rent the items that you need to enter specific dungeons to tackle them in any order you want. So maybe that's the closest way that they could merge the gameplay styles. Maybe the Deku Tree is like the first area that you have to do like from the very start, but then maybe you can go from there and be like, okay, do you want to visit Goron City first or Zoro's Domain first? That's all up to you. Echoes of Wisdom also did a great job at merging those gameplay styles, because even though the story was linear, you could tackle story objectives like in chapters in any order.
Like, this project could really serve as a merging ground between the linear traditional Zelda and the more open air Zelda, taking the best of both worlds, and as a result being able to also appeal to the crowd that came in for for the open world map and so on. And interestingly enough, Ocarina of Time is a game where you can do the dungeons out of order. It's just that, of course, you are directed towards a certain order, but you can beat them in a different order. It's just a matter of getting the hook shot after pulling the Master Sword. You only need to do slight changes, really, to get that full do-it-your-way Link Between Worlds style. You don't need big changes, and at the same time, you also have the possibility of expanding the world, because obviously the map of Ocarina of Time isn't nearly the size of Breath of the Wild or even Twilight Princess. So what you could do is obviously expand the map a little bit, but also in the child section you could expand Castle Town, because we know there are streets there we simply cannot access because they're just a painted background in both the original N64 and 3DS version. If you're gonna apply and try to merge these two gameplay styles, you could suddenly have fully modeled 3D buildings. You could have Link climbing up these buildings, running around rooftops, parkour style, and even doing the incredible thing, which would be climbing to the very top and running around the Temple of Time. Expanding and making Ocarina more of a modern Zelda, but also while keeping the great pacing and balance in storytelling, dungeon progression, and exploration is something that I feel like warrants another remake and final version of this game, especially since, well, Ocarina of Time is back in the spotlight thanks to the Final Battle Lego set, and it would be a real shame if one of the best moments in video game history is celebrated only in Lego form in 2026, because there's definitely a way of making that scene even more epic, whether it's Unreal Engine 4 or using the Breath of the Wild engine, but in a different art style. The potential is just immense, from controls to graphics to cut content that could be brought back, or content that 3DS put in, like the boss challenge mode, that could also be added now into it. Nintendo would be wasting a great opportunity if they bring out this peak Lego set and then do nothing with it outside of that, because this is something that sells by itself, and especially when we're gonna be getting teaser trailers and eventually also trailers for the Zelda movie. This project could in many ways serve as a build-up to the movie. It's more about that, oh, I played the game, now I'll watch the movie. No, usually it's the other way around. You watch the movie first, and then you will play the game, because many of the people that will watch the movie haven't played a Zelda game before.
I mean, that was kind of their strategy with the Mario movie, right? Like, the Mario movie came out, and then a few months later, Super Mario Bros. Wonder came out, which they've said the animations in Wonder were directly influenced by the movie. So, yeah, you might be onto something there. I know we have to get a Zelda release to coincide after the Zelda movie comes out next year. I definitely think the Ocarina of Time remake could coincide with the Zelda movie, which could possibly mean we don't see it this year. It would have to come out after the movie next year. But again, there's still so much we don't know. There's still so much that's up in the air, whether this is going to be like a merger of open air and traditional linear Zelda, or if it's just going to be an Ocarina of Time, just simple visual remake. That's kind of the trend Nintendo's been going towards, is just giving these remakes more just visual touch-ups than anything. But I would love to be wrong, and I would hope they see like, hey, open air Zelda does so well, like it outsells every Zelda game combined, so we have to give Ocarina of Time somewhat of an open air treatment.
Unless Monolith Soft is in charge of it, and we know what Monolith Soft does when they do remakes. They add massive expansions. If we were to say that Monolith Soft Kyoto has their first project be Ocarina of Time, you know, just like for Grezzo, their first remake project was also Ocarina of Time, only for obviously the 3DS, then we could be talking about a project that is very close to the vision that we have been bringing to the table throughout this video. Grezzo is now the new 2D Zelda team, so if you could have a third Zelda team, one that isn't in Tokyo, which Grezzo is, but much closer to home for the Nintendo Zelda team, then Monolith Soft Kyoto, who's already supporting the Zelda team with the open air games, would be the perfect fit. They know the engine, they know the world, characters, and they also know how, from being a part of Monolith, to respect and write a good story, create a good cohesion, and most of all, adding value for your money. If this was their debut project that was fully developed by them from start to finish, then that could really be something that could mark for the future of The Legend of Zelda, not only for future remakes, but more about making brand new 3D Zelda games in that traditional style, or at least something that is between the open air and the traditional style.
I definitely want a 3D traditional Zelda game again. As much as I really enjoy the open air games, I especially love Breath of the Wild, they miss so much of what makes Zelda Zelda to me. The music, the traditional dungeons with the traditional progression, the items, there's just a lot missing from those games. And what worries me about them selling so well is that Nintendo essentially just focuses on them and ignores everything else that made Zelda special. Even Aonuma's recent comments of why would you want to go back to linear have me worried, because it's just like, do you not understand why people like, it's not just nostalgia, AG. So if Monolith Soft came in to like fill that void with like their own takes on traditional Zelda, even if they do have open elements to them, then that would make me a very, very happy Zelda fan.
Especially if you remove all the loading times and loading zones that you had in Ocarina. Like, there's just so many ways of upgrading this game by giving a final version of it. And something that, if done right, I think could be better than the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, because one, you don't split up the game into 3 parts, and secondly, you really bring out the full potential without the need of unnecessary filler. Because suddenly, if you have a bigger castle town, you can have more new side quests, new mini games, and also new NPCs that were not there in the original child section of the original game, thus also adding more value to the section of Ocarina that is usually underappreciated. There's a massive potential of adding a shining status to the child section and make you crave going back to play as Child Link and explore Castle Town and areas around more by adding new content there. Anyway, Joey, thank you so much for joining as always, and if you haven't already, guys, be sure to share your opinion in the comment section down below, and most of all, leave a like, subscribe, and press the notification bell to make this video more visible. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching, and to all our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons. Special shoutouts go to Raw Producer, Jonathan, and Heroes, Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf, and Kintaro. You rock, and please enjoy these awesome videos.